I agree with this. To an extent, I started playing Overwatch 2 again, thinking it was going to be huge. It was going to go back to the glory days. I bought some skins. I jumped into the One Punch Man event and bought a skin there because it looked cool. And I was like, oh, I'm going to play this hero. I'm going to play the game more. It's good to be back. I don't touch the game anymore. I'm with Didi. It's just taking up hard drive space now. I should just remove it. But I bought those skins because I wanted to keep playing the game. And now I don't want to. Because of all the shit that's been dropped. You fool, Kakarot. I got excited. And I think that's the issue. Everyone got excited. They thought it was back. So this is a new video came out today about Overwatch. It's just sort of running down why Overwatch 2 failed. I thought this would be a cool little watch for us. Turn into bird shit again. Yeah. Yeah, it will. So yeah, why did Overwatch 2 fail, chat? Do you guys know? Did it fail? Who knows? Let's check it out.
Overwatch fans are still reeling after the disappointing announcement that the entire purpose for the 2 attached to Overwatch 2 is being downgraded to what seems like an afterthought. All the while, Diablo 4 gears up for a big release this week with critics and hardcore fans alike singing its praises. You remember when we were supposed to get a endlessly replayable Diablo-style game? Ugh. This past week, we have seen a lot of community conversation on the state of the game, including one of the biggest content creators in the world reacting to our video.
Dude, this guy went so...
Hey, it's Aspen again, chat. Maid outfit. Peg leg, when we hit 1K followers, we're doing a 12-hour stream. And I will be rocking a maid's outfit. Promised chat a long time ago. And for some fucking reason, they never forgot. And now as we get closer, it is being brought up every stream.
so hard. Where he was like, you know what, Blizzard? F you. F you for lying to me. F you for everything, man. I fucking hate you guys. Oh my god. My expectation of Overwatch and like my excitement for the game is pretty much at zero. Like
Bear in mind, Asman wasn't a massive Overwatch player. He played a bit of Overwatch 1 and then trailed off it. I think he got into Overwatch 2 a bit more when that first dropped, but he's not like a massive Overwatch 2. Like he's a big content creator, don't get me wrong, but he's not massive in the Overwatch community. Face pause. That's good. I'll have to save this one. You think I could screen grab this and use it as the thumbnail for the last video? He just hates Blizzard. I mean, yeah, he does, but he actually likes some of the games. It's weird.
I have no enthusiasm for Overwatch anymore. Because I know what it's never gonna be.
I know many Overwatch fans are looking for a positive message in all this. Nope. Is there one to find? Or did Overwatch 2 fail? Video games can disappoint you, but today's video sponsor has never let us
fail if it never happened.
Down. I was a fan of Manscaped for years before they ever sponsored the channel. That's because they're the #1 when it comes to male grooming. Today we're looking at the brand new Buff Bundle, the ultimate showering kit. Starting off with the Body Buffer, this is a handheld exfoliator brush designed to help remove dead skin, bacteria, and reduce ingrown hairs. These feel amazing, guys, like everything Manscaped does, quality. Loofahs and cloths are gross and waste your cleaning product, but the
What the fuck is wrong with his loofah? What? Is he... You're not supposed to wipe your ass with it. You sat on it? Bro, that's a bum wipe. My lord. That shouldn't look like that. This guy definitely needs sponsorship to Manscaped. Don't use white ones, for Christ. You shouldn't. Like, I've used white ones before. They don't look like that.
and waste your cleaning product, but the body buffer bristle gets the most out of your cleaner. Get some in the buff bundle, which comes with the body buffer and 2 bottles of ultra premium body wash, infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep you feeling great and clean. Ditch that gross
I can't wait for that
and
shit to go
upgrade
into my
today.
eyes.
Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free
what? In
international
your eyes?
shipping by using our promo code Overwatch. That's manscaped.com.
Minnie, thank you for the follow. Much love. We're one step closer to the maid stream. Great.
Use our promo code Overwatch and get 20% off and free shipping. Okay, so we're going to explore this idea, take a look at where the whole Overwatch 2 conversation has moved since our last video, and offer my conclusion at the end. We'll include some replies to Asmongold and Flats who watched our video, but first some community reactions on things to set the tone. I've been tweeting out to gauge the temperature of the community. The responses have been all over the place. First, a week ago, I asked the community to answer seriously. Did Blizzard do a good job supporting Overwatch 2 PvP since...
Okay. It's a comment that I instantly wanted to hate on, but he said PvP. He did say PvP, and they have been supporting PvP.
Release. And as you might imagine, with the wound still fresh...
Yeah, they're gonna say no because they're pissed off about the PvE, but they have been doing content for PvP. The video, guys, wash your balls.
Most people said no. And also with a poll like this, because everyone has so many different opinions, there's a lot of ways that you could be upset by what they're doing to the game if it affects you personally. But that's always been the case with Overwatch. To be honest though, when I put this poll out, I expected it to maybe be a bit more yes, despite even the bad news. Coach Mills responded in saying, most people are going to vote no on this purely because of the Blizzard hate, which I get, but the live service balance and content updates for PvP specifically have beaten other live service games, at least for this short time.
I don't agree with that. I still think Apex does a better job with the live surface aspect. I think they dish out a lot of content, and they're not cutting stuff out. Yeah, cross progression hasn't happened. That's kind of shit. Sorry about that, Ali. And Alex is waiting for that cross progression as well. But yeah, Overwatch 2's PvP's been good. I would not say it's at the level of like Apex or like Valorant.
If they keep it up long term, it's phenomenal. Pretty tough to have this perspective at the moment, though, of course, when there's a much bigger elephant.
Yeah, their server maintenance isn't great, but they've got all these Overwatch players coming over now, so
In the room to talk about. And overall, the replies to this poll were far more positive than the votes themselves. And I think that's because if you're a PvP player, we can still remember the end of the content drought and the frequency of balance that we always wanted finally being here. So,
Edie, do you remember that? Do you remember the content drought at Overwatch 1 towards the end? You were still about, weren't you? I know you dipped over to PUBG quite a bit.
I'm gonna start a civil war tie.
Yeah. Do it. Fucking dare ya.
I waited a week and then put out another poll, this one to the subject matter of today's video. Is Overwatch 2 a failure? And well, still somewhat of the 60-40 split going on, give or take.
We're doing a video, guys. You need to calm down. I will turn off notifications. Need to steal content. Not funny.
A few percentage points. Ranking number 1 Brig player Violet responds in saying the only thing Overwatch 2 has succeeded in
It's not even worth the gigabyte in my PC.
is bringing in more money.
I still gotta
Montage
install.
Maker Recall says content-wise not at all, especially considering what we got for 3 years before that. But that's a super low bar to cross. Overall, as a sequel, yes, it's 100% failed. Financially, I'm sure it's doing good, but long-term is uncertain at the moment. Not because they are not making new content, but because of people's perception of the game and trust in Blizzard to deliver and not mess up even more somehow. The monetization is still one of the worst out there in my opinion, and if they fix that, the game might be a success in a year or so.
This is a really good take. This is a really, really good take. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave now because my sexist CSGO game is starting. Welcome the Russians. Enjoy, Didi. Have fun, Didi. This is a good take. I agree with this whole statement. This literally sums up my feelings on Overwatch as well. Yeah, I think content-wise, they are dishing out a lot more, considering the drought we had in Overwatch 2, in Overwatch 1, sorry. low bar to hit. Completely agree. Financially, I do think it's probably doing better than Overwatch 1 did. But in terms of its monetization, which is why it's probably doing as well as it is, because it's so expensive, it's going to hurt the longevity of the game, 100%.
Yeah, buddy, I don't think they're changing the monetization,
No.
even though they're changing the scope of what they're delivering dramatically.
More.
Which is
They'll
part
make
of
it
my
more
big problem
monetized.
with it. We'll continue on that thought later. YouTuber turned shoutcaster dividing by zero says it depends what you consider a failure to be. I think it's subjective. If you're basing it off what we were pitched in 2019, it's an objective failure. We weren't delivered what was promised, full stop. However, if you base it off Overwatch 2's current goals, aka creating a free-to-play live service game with consistent new content and effective monetization. Effective, that's a very interesting term there, bro. He finishes in saying, then I'd say we're doing a good job. Both takes are valid. Yes, effectively extracting monetary value from the customer. That's been the biggest boost to Overwatch 2 so far. I joke, but yes, of course, they need to make money to continue development, but it shouldn't be on us to pick up the check just because they don't really know the cost of the scope of the plans they set out. Now, that all being said, the most substantial update to Overwatch 2 is actually the microtransactions at this point, which makes me question, if we are in fact in early access of Overwatch 2, what should we expect the full access to be? What does that look like? I feel like we forgot that they brought this into being as early access on the promotion of it. And let's not forget, they knew the real PvE was canned by the time they launched this early access sequel. Now Blizzard likes to have it both ways with this kind of thing.
There's nothing on the horizon. There's no like, oh, we're fully... It's going to be like Fortnite again, where it'll be in early access for fucking ever until they just say, look, okay, now it's a released game. Stop crying. But at least they did add the PvE. So...
Their terminology is all over the place. Early access sort of forgives the growing pains of the transition for the actual real good substantive updates to PvP that I and many of you dedicated PvP players are really appreciative of. Finally, the game gets updated. That feels great. But I also find it quite manipulative because when do we arrive at the full access game? Does it look substantially different from what we have now? Or is it Archives Plus, which we had in Overwatch 1 anyway? You see where I'm getting at here? I feel like Blizzard, with this entire project, has been deliberately misleading with a lot of their terminology, and that's like the worst thing to me, because I want honesty. And it gets worse if you think of the entire timeline from this dev team as well. I felt very lonely years ago as one of the few people who thought the content drought itself was unethical at the start of it. Because remember, this is a company that pretends that their multiplayer games are live services without actually putting the updates in them that normally comes with that. This was before they went the Overwatch 2 free-to-play model, which can fund continuous development. They set an expectation for what new content in Overwatch 1 was going to be for years, then promised it would get even bigger with the sequel, which then a lot of the player base...
They realized that people, when you do a box, like retail like copy, people buy it, and then that's it. And they get that full amount, and that's it. And at launch, it was great. 60 quid a box. Yeah, fucking raking it in. Let's go. And then the price dropped. And then it became fucking so cheap to buy it. Everyone who was buying it, like towards the end, were buying it for like pence. Maybe not pence, but like a few dollars, a few pounds here and there on third-party websites. They're not making any money off that, really. And the loot boxes, yeah, they probably made quite a bit off the loot box scheme. But they had what I determined one of the best ways to do loot boxes, like with Apex, is that you can buy the loot boxes or you can earn them. And that's what Overwatch 1 was like. And people just tend to just earn the boxes. They're going to play the game. They got free shit for it, and that kept people playing. It was a good cycle. There's no money in that. Overwatch 2, I literally think, was just so they can get rid of loot boxes, make people buy the skins consistently, and get battle passes. It's literally just, we're going to relaunch it and charge more for it. It's not like, oh, live service is free to play. It's the same game. We're just going to charge more. Like, look at this. Buying old skins is like 20 quid. Mad.
base sort of accepted, and it was based on those big promises, that they cut off content from the original game, which I thought was incredibly shady to do, because that already was showing there was a management error, like obvious. Every other game that's out there continued to get heroes and content in their game. They have microtransactions. We had microtransactions. It's not my fault that they mismanaged how easy loot boxes were to get. This story has been manipulated so many times that I feel like the public consciousness on this subject matter has just like Mandela affected the first couple years of Overwatch. But skins were actually expensive at the start of Overwatch 1. You had to buy into the loot box model to really gain any progress, and it was only over time that you collected a lot more. And when they put in generous systems like duplicate protection and more currency, things like that, where it got to become very easy to not have to pay anything if you were a dedicated player. Surely that income source drying up is why we have such abrupt change to the free-to-play.
Like so many people are going to complain to add loot boxes back in. They'll do it, and it will just become Overwatch 1 again. I don't think they'll ever add the loot boxes back. I personally don't have an issue with loot boxes if there is a way to earn them in game. I think the model Apex runs is good, and what Overwatch used to be, where you could earn them, or if you didn't want to earn them, you wanted to get them quickly, you didn't want to play hundreds of hours of the game, it's fine, I'll buy them. That model, I think, is fine. I don't see an issue with it. But definitely make sure you are pushing it out there as gambling. Because it's what it is. It's gambling. And that's why a lot of it stopped. They want the younger player base, but they want the money from the gambling. A decision has to be made there. Just say that it's more adult-orientated and put them back in. All these companies dipped on it. I'm kind of glad Respawn's sticking to it. I do think, yeah, the pushing the gambling onto like a younger audience is bad. But I mean, it's been happening for centuries at this point. I mean, look at Kick. Kick's popping off, and that's all run by gambling. People don't realize it. But yeah, lambs to the slaughter. It's always going to be the case.
Play business model where you have to continuously put in money, no other option. And of course, you notice that the monetization pipeline has never ceased, never halted, never been delayed, canceled, downgraded. In fact, they have further plans for more microtransactions. That works perfectly fine. It's not hard to see where their priorities are on this. And I was skeptical at the start of it.
Have we still got Marlon in here? Marlon, you still about? Did you play Immortal? Diablo Immortal? How many currencies were in that game? How many currencies could you buy into in that game for about 5 minutes? I'm pretty sure it was like 12. I think there was 12 different currencies that you could buy into in Diablo Immortal. That game is such a cash cow because it was just siphoning money. Fucking trash piece of shit, give us your money game. Yeah, well, and this is coming from a big fan of Diablo.
It looked publicly like a mistake, but it felt like nobody else assumed Overwatch 2 was going to be an extension of the development hell of Project Titan. No, this was Overwatch now. They got it figured out. But let's remember, this is the same team that burned through 7 years of development hell, and now combined with Overwatch 2, it's over 10. The number of times that workload from this team has been abandoned is sad, especially knowing what they're capable of. Now, in my Jeff video, I rage against the machine a bit at Blizzard for misleading us in multiple ways. In Asmongold's reaction video, he says you can't take it personally because the devs are just doing their jobs, just following orders. That excuse has always worked in history, right? Always an acceptable answer. But no, seriously, I don't blame the lying devs for lying by omission for half a year, because if you think about it, it badly would have tanked the relatively strong release of Overwatch 2, so I see why they did it. Yeah, of course, withholding the truth was probably the right business decision, even if I find it unethical and not what Blizzard should stand for. And what should Blizzard stand for? Well, if you didn't know, Blizzard Entertainment is well known for having an orc statue dedicated to the principles that the company is supposed to be founded on. There's plaques on the floor of it, and it seems year by year we just find a new reason to cover up one of these with the big lawsuit scandal. Every voice matters sounds like.
Oh, they have that outside the studio? They just fired a guy for making a comment in World of Warcraft. Ooh. Ooh.
Like a ridiculous thing to have a plaque for, of course. In this case, I'm going to read a couple other ones. This one says they're dedicated to creating the most epic entertainment experiences ever.
Oh. These are not good, chat. These are not good.
Yes, of course, unless it's easier to make money by not doing that. Or how about this one? Play nice, play fair. That one stings a bit for me. I don't think the great bait and switch of Overwatch 2, this elaborate rug pull, none of this was very fair to the player base, and certainly not so nice. Oh, yeah, of course, we can't blame the devs for working.
But yeah, he's generalizing it. Not good at all. He's generalizing saying like, oh yeah, we should blame the devs. Like what? Like the guy who worked on the UI? Like, is it his fault that the corporate side of Blizzard, which is like Marlon said, this is all probably before Activision took over when they done these plaques, back when Blizzard was, you know, kind of all for the gamer sort of thing. But yeah, fucking Greg in AI programming probably didn't have much of a say. The guy who done the lighting effects for Overwatch 2, it was a gig for him. Like, I don't think he was the mastermind behind dropping the PvE. I do feel like I agree with Asman. I'm sensing a theme here tonight. I agree with Asman that it should not be aimed at the devs, like the whole structure of the team that is like building these games. It's got to be aimed towards the higher ups, like Bobby, like I mean, even yeah, like Gerard as well. Like those people who probably have a bit more sway probably should have more of the blame rather than the guy who made a box on King's Row. That's just saying. The guy who programmed a box in King's Row probably doesn't deserve the hate.
In the evil empire, if Darth Vader tells you to jump, you gotta say how high. But I don't think we need to be trusting this company to live by the words they say they want to or aspire to anytime soon. They should just tear down this statue, let's just be honest. Now, to that point, I got a surprising reaction from Flats on my principal complaint. I said that players would have bought more skins, battle passes, and other microtransactions, thinking they were funding the development of something bigger. Of course, the devs never said they had downgraded the PvE. They just said we would hear more news about it next year. They called the game early access, which implied it was building towards something, at least to me. But Flats thinks that perspective is copium. But here's the thing. I don't have to go far to find a player that did exactly those things from the perspective I'm saying. I happen to know a lifelong Blizzard fan who bought into the bigger promises and willingly signed up for the battle pass, expensive MTX, and all of it. I apologized for all of that, and I put money in, thinking that this was on the long haul. I 100% paid more for things that I thought were funding something bigger and better.
And yeah, I agree with this. To an extent, I started playing Overwatch 2 again, thinking it was going to be huge. It was going to go back to the glory days. I bought some skins. I jumped into the One Punch Man event and bought a skin there because it looked cool. And I was like, oh, I'm going to play this hero. I'm going to play the game more. It's good to be back. I don't touch the game anymore. I'm with Didi. It's just taking up hard drive space now. I should just remove it. But I bought those skins because I wanted to keep playing the game. And now I don't want to. Because of all the shit that's been dropped. You fool, Kakarot. I got excited, and I think that's the issue. Everyone got excited. They thought it was back. Played Overwatch 1 for years. I thought they would be the same. I generally didn't think, like, not like half a year. Like, wait, when did it drop? Like February did it drop? Overwatch 2? It was February, right? The beta? We're talking like a couple of months and I'm already done and I probably won't come back. This is a guy who dropped everything to play Overwatch.
So, if I did that, I'm sure there at least is a sizable minority of people who also did in this 6 odd months the game has been out. Money that surely would have been
Right
less
now.
if we knew the truth from the start. And I don't even need that point to convince you. If that isn't the case, why didn't they tell us from the start? Wouldn't that have been the honest thing to do? No, of course, they knew the bad press alone would have affected the sales numbers of everything, interest, regardless of like the super fan argument I'm making. It obviously was going to hurt microtransaction sales. That's why we all probably agree it was the only decision they had to make. Overwatch 2's launch relatively felt like a success, and being honest, probably would have tanked it. Let's just be real. But that's not what Blizzard's supposed to be about. That's not what I thought they were about. I thought we were making a new foundation. Blizzard is supposed to make great games that you want to spend money on. You know, there's a drama in the Diablo 4 universe right now. We've found the microtransactions in that game, a game that's full price, has a battle pass, and expensive cosmetics over the top, but no one is going to care. No one. Because the argument over extra transactions in video games was lost years ago. And if you make a game that bangs, the players are gonna pay. That's the consensus, at least on the whole. What you're not allowed to do is have all that extra microtransactions, but lack the content to make it feel worth it. But no, instead, we get the manipulation of the message, but they're a publicly traded.
Yeah, people are going to spend money on Diablo 4 because it's a new game and they want to play it. And it's probably going to be a fun game. Like, they dropped the ball on Diablo 4. I think they're done, to be honest. Like, even WoW isn't doing that great anymore. But yeah, people will spend the money because it's a new game and they enjoy the content. Fuck, it better be a fun game. The issue here is that they've added in all these microtransactions and made it way more expensive to do the things you did before in Overwatch 1 in Overwatch 2. But the game itself is still the exact same game. Nothing's different. You got a fucking lighting in a box in King's Row. Like, there's no content there. The content that, like he said, the content that was coming and we were promised was enough to bring people back and make it okay. Now that that's been dropped, we're just back to square one. We're playing Overwatch 1 in a slightly nicer looking engine, kind of. I don't know. It's got some like weather effects and shit. Ah, man, it makes me sad talking about this game.
I guess they have to do that. I really feel for our devs. Imagine what it's like being an Overwatch dev right now to have to wear the burden of the worst news the game has ever had to report. All the while, the Diablo devs are readying the champagne for the release of Diablo 4. And while it's too early to be certain, the early reviews are very good. And the end game even seems to be getting the stamp of approvals even by the harshest of diehard players. They're responding to feedback, all the things we thought our devs were doing, not knowing they were hacking off a big section of the promises in order to do so. Honestly, I think Diablo 4 could be Game of the Year. And yes, I know Zelda just released. That's how good I think Diablo 4 is. So
Marlon, you're a bit of both. Do you think it's gonna outweigh D4 is not Game of the Year? That's a bad take. I think Tears of the Kingdom will take it this year. It's a Zelda game. Don't the Zelda games usually just take it? It's good, but it's not Zelda good. That's a good way to describe it.
So yeah, it's pretty tough for me to be, as a Blizzard fan, seeing all of the party going on down the street. Meanwhile, we're on bread and water. Blizzard is seemingly reintroducing their old industry-defining quality standard to that franchise, which is an impressive feat considering they hadn't put together a Game of the Year worthy title since, well, Overwatch 1. I thought we were the golden child. Turns out we're the redheaded stepchild. And on the roadmap, they're announcing what looks to be a mobile game by many. I didn't even think that was on the table because I think we would be in outrage if they cancel PvE and the very first new edition they make is a mobile game. Again, I could tolerate an Overwatch mobile game of any description if we also got the main things we want. That's what modern gaming is. You can have your Diablo Immortal, but you need to have your Diablo 4. Where's our sequel, Blizzard? Where is it? What is this early access version of a PvP update? All right, here's my conclusion. I think the expectations set by the previous announcements over the years were the problem. Not actually what we currently have. Despite hating the manipulation, I don't actually hate the product we have because it has been a hard decision, no doubt, to again scrap multiple years of work to downscale the vision of the game. I actually respect the devs for doing that. It's a hard decision to make. I just really think the 2 attached to the name set up a list of expectations that they signed up for for. They knew there wasn't going to be a 2 worthy amount of content and called it 2 anyway. How many times are we going to allow ourselves to be misled before we say it's too much? We get to redefine what PvE means and why people use that term. We get to redefine early access, redefine the sequel, redefine everything.
They could literally they could have just done Overwatch 2.0. They added that 0.0, it changes everything. It's no longer like a sequel, it's an update. Literally, it would change my mind. If it launched like that, if they did it now, I'd be pissed off. Because they've already done the promise of 2. But if they said they were doing an update, not a sequel, it's an update. Still have the same promises. I think I touched on this in the last video. But still have the same promises. And then, yeah, pull the rug. Say they're not happening. It's an update. How can you get mad? It's a sequel, and the only thing making it a sequel is not happening now is such bullshit.
Just redefine anything they want. I would have been much happier with what I had actually asked for, which is kind of what we got. I wanted an Overwatch 2.0 for them to...
See, chat? Exactly. Same take.
Keep all the PvP updates they were saving up and relaunch the game. Why couldn't they have done that? But that's too honest, it seems. Maybe that's not sensationalist enough. Maybe that doesn't get as much short-term revenue. But you would have gained our respect by telling us you made the bad decision long ago and you have to fix it now. But no, they delayed telling us that. To me, ultimately, us knowing was the problem, because Kotaku leaked that they canceled a StarCraft FPS game that was going to be like Battlefield. Yeah, they reorganized devs on these other smaller projects they were working on to allocate resources towards Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. That kind of sounded like good news. And I feel like we might have a different opinion on this entire PvE thing if they just didn't tell us about it yet, when they knew they had so much more to go on it. Because if we indeed didn't know all those big aspirations, and they went from Overwatch 1 into Overwatch 2.0, PvP, overhaul, microtransactions, free-to-play, constant content, and then said, oh, we're adding story missions, that might sound like a upgrade from other free-to-play games. I think it still is. And at least under the new devs, talking about the new things we are getting, when they do talk about it, they have built some trust, I think. They only had a lie about the old promises. All the new stuff they keep telling us about, and if it gets delayed, they tell us how long it'll be and what's going wrong and what they're working on. We're really in the loop now. It's just funny that Blizzard was so bad at communication back then that attempts to communicate actually made things worse for themselves because they were mismanaging their resources internally. They can't really tell us a real plan like they do now, because back then they didn't have a plan, not a reasonable one they could deliver on. Whereas now, over time, I think we can see when certain things get delayed. We can understand, okay, the Brig rework is delayed because the art team needs to figure out how to make the shield 21/9. Same thing with Roadhog and Sombra. Those got delayed a little bit. But at least we know where their head's at, what they're working on, what's coming, what's confirmed. We can actually follow this game, and over years, I guess, we might finally trust that they can deliver the things they say they're going to, once that these new devs, anyway, can deliver on the things that they say. I can't really blame the new director and the new producer for steering the ship they inherited into a new direction. These guys are military surgeons. They stopped the bleeding and mended the self-inflicted wounds from years ago. They deserve a medal for saving this thing from full cancellation. Like, we could have had no new game, no updates. They could have scrapped the whole thing. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, folks. Like, we could be heroes of the storm, you know. We don't know what the worst possible timeline could have been. So I can't help but be somewhat grateful that they made the hard decisions. All it takes to build some trust again is make some good stuff. I think also with Lifeweaver being kind of a resident sleeper hero for most players, it's also a particularly harsh time, but I think they're probably smart in trying to deliver this bad news at the lowest point of the game, so that when they start adding good things later, they can build some momentum and distance themselves from this negativity. But let's start off with small baby steps, okay? Let's hope that the Season 6 story mode is decent and overperforms the very low expectations that it seems like everyone has for it. If you like this video, please be sure to leave it a like. And to support this channel, you can check out today's video sponsor.
Another issue moving devs from one game to another. A game that they didn't sign up for the work on probably means they aren't as interested in making it. And there'll just be confusion. Like, there'll be no communicating going on. It'll be all like fucking disorganized, and shit will take twice as long because not everyone's following along. No one knows the vision. No one knows what's, like, what the plan is day to day. Like, it will just be a mess. gaming finally. Yes, we're getting to it. There's no more videos, chat. Don't worry. This is a good video. I like that he's gone back on a few points, even though I still don't agree with the dev stuff. I feel like we do have people we need to blame, and it's not average Joe just sitting there working his coding job. Yeah, it's sad to see. I hope they do take some steps. I hope the game does come back. As always, I want to see this game succeed. It's just I generally don't think it will, and I don't think I'll ever come back.
Big chungus, 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 big